You are sitting in your room, watching your favorite Hollywood show or maybe listening to a Western podcast, and you understand almost everything. But the moment a native English speaker starts talking to you in real life, or if you switch on a movie without subtitles, it suddenly feels like they are speaking an entirely different language. The words blur together, the pace is overwhelmingly fast, and you find yourself just nodding and smiling while internally panicking. If this sounds like you, take a deep breath, because you are not alone. Millions of Indian girls face this exact same situation. You have spent years studying English in school, memorizing grammar rules, and writing long essays, but nobody ever actually taught you how to speak it fluently, and more importantly, nobody taught you how to decode native speakers. The Indian education system is fantastic at teaching you how to read and write English, but it completely ignores the conversational aspect. You learned that "I am going to the market" is the correct way to say it, but when you hear an American say, "I'm gonna hit the store," your brain freezes. The disconnect happens because native speakers do not speak textbook English. They use slang, they break grammar rules, they swallow their sounds, and they speak at a speed that feels like a bullet train compared to the slow, deliberate pronunciation you heard from your school teachers. But here is the good news. Improving your English and understanding native speakers is not about becoming a genius or spending 10 hours a day studying. It is about changing your approach, rewiring how your brain processes sound, and building a completely new set of habits. The very first thing you need to do is let go of the fear of judgment. As an Indian girl, there is often an unspoken pressure to be perfect. You might worry about your accent, you might worry about making a grammatical error, or you might worry about what your family or friends will think if you suddenly start speaking English differently. You have to actively decide that sounding perfect is less important than being understood. Native speakers do not care if you use the wrong preposition or if your sentence structure is slightly off. They care about the connection. They care about the flow of the conversation. When you are so focused on not making a mistake, your brain processes information much slower, which means you miss what the other person is saying, and your responses come out stiff and unnatural. Give yourself permission to sound silly. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Fluency is simply the ability to communicate your thoughts without stopping to translate in your head, and you cannot achieve that if you are constantly editing yourself. Now, let us talk about the biggest secret to understanding native speakers, and that is connected speech. When we learn English in India, we are taught to pronounce every single word individually and clearly. We say, "What are you going to do?" But a native speaker never speaks like that. They connect the end of one word to the beginning of the next. They say, "What you gonna do?" When you are listening to someone speak and you are trying to hear individual words, you will fail because the words are physically blended together. You need to start training your ears to hear chunks of sound, not isolated words. This is called linked speech, and once you understand the rules behind it, a massive fog will lift from your listening comprehension. For example, when a word ends in a consonant sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound, native speakers will naturally glide them together. Hold on becomes hold on. Stop it becomes stop it. Once you know this rule, you will start hearing it everywhere, and suddenly, fast English will not feel so intimidating anymore. Another massive part of connected speech is something called reductions. Native speakers reduce certain sounds because it takes too much energy to pronounce every single syllable in a fast conversation. The word "going to" is almost always reduced to "gonna." Want to becomes wanna, wanna. Got to becomes gotta. Don't you becomes don'tcha. If you do not know these reductions, you will spend an extra second trying to figure out what "gonna" means, and by that time, the speaker is already 2 sentences ahead. You have to study reductions the same way you studied vocabulary. Make a list of the most common reductions and practice saying them yourself. When you start saying "gonna" and "wanna" out loud, 2 incredible things happen. First, you sound much more natural and less robotic. Second, because your mouth is physically used to making those sounds, your brain instantly recognizes them when a native speaker says them. You also have to understand the schwa sound. This is the most common sound in the English language, yet most Indian speakers completely ignore it. The schwa sounds like a lazy ah. In English, many vowels in unstressed syllables are not pronounced with their full clear sound. They are reduced to the schwa. For example, the word camera. An Indian speaker might say camera, putting equal stress on all three syllables. A native speaker will say kamur. The middle and ending syllables are lazy and quick. The word chocolate is not chocolate, it is cocolit. It is cocolit. The word comfortable is not comfortable, it is comfortable. When you start listening for the schwa, you will realize that native speakers are actually saying fewer syllables than you thought, which makes their speech sound faster than it actually is. Start paying attention to the rhythm of English. English is a stress-timed language, meaning the important words get a lot of emphasis and the unimportant words are squeezed together and spoken very quickly. If you focus your ears only on the stressed words, the nouns, the main verbs, the adjectives, you can usually guess the meaning of the sentence without hearing every single small word like to, at, or and. So, how do you actually practice this? Passive listening is not enough. You cannot just play an English podcast in the background while you are cooking or scrolling on your phone and expect to magically understand native speakers. You need active, intentional listening. Pick a short video on YouTube or a short clip from a TV show, maybe 2 to 3 minutes long. First, watch it with English subtitles. Do not use Hindi subtitles, because your brain will naturally just read the Hindi and stop trying to listen to the English. Watch it with English subtitles, and pay attention to how the words on the screen do not exactly match the sounds you are hearing. Notice the linked speech and the reductions. Then, watch that exact same clip again, but this time, close your eyes or turn off the subtitles. See how much more you can understand now that you know what they are saying. Finally, watch it a third time, and this time, try to mimic the speaker. Repeat exactly what they say, exactly how they say it. Copy their rhythm, copy their pauses, copy the way they swallow certain sounds. This technique is called shadowing, and it is arguably the fastest way to improve both your listening comprehension and your speaking fluency simultaneously. When it comes to choosing what to listen to, be strategic. Do not start by trying to understand complex political debates or rapid-fire movies like Aaron Sorkin writes. Start with conversational, everyday English. Vlogs are incredible for this. Watch a day-in-the-life vlog by an American or British girl. The language is natural, it is unscripted, and it is exactly how people talk in real life. Sitcoms like Friends or Modern Family are also great because the situations are relatable and the jokes rely on everyday phrasing. Podcasts where 2 or 3 people are just casually chatting are gold mines for natural speech patterns. Expose yourself to a mix of American and British accents, but do not stress about mastering both right away. Pick one to focus on first. Understand its rhythm, and then you will find that understanding the other becomes much easier. Now, let us address your speaking. Understanding is only half the battle. You also need to be able to respond. The biggest mistake Indian girls make is translating from Hindi or their mother tongue into English before speaking. This creates a massive delay. Your brain does the work twice. First, it formulates the thought in Hindi, then it translates it, then it tries to say it. By the time the words leave your mouth, the moment has passed. To fix this, you have to start thinking in English. This sounds hard, but it is just a habit that you need to build. Start small. When you are looking out the window of a bus, describe what you see in your head in English. It is very crowded today. That man is wearing a blue shirt. I need to buy milk on the way home. When you are lying in bed at night, plan your next day in English. Tomorrow I have to wake up at 7. I need to finish that assignment. By forcing your brain to process daily, mundane thoughts in English, you are building the mental pathways required for spontaneous speech. When you eventually have a conversation with a native speaker, your brain will already be warmed up and used to generating English thoughts without the translation step. You also need to upgrade your vocabulary, but not in the way you think. Stop learning heavy, formal words from GRE books or classical literature. Native speakers do not use those words in daily conversation. If you say, "I am exceedingly fatigued," a native speaker will understand you, but they will instantly know you learned English from a book. They would just say, "I'm exhausted," or "I'm beat." You need to focus on phrasal verbs and idioms. Phrasal verbs are a combination of a verb and a preposition that creates a completely new meaning. Instead of saying, "I will investigate the matter," say, "I'll look into it." Instead of "please tolerate his behavior," say, "please put up with him." Instead of "we must postpone the meeting," say, "we should put the meeting off." Phrasal verbs are the heartbeat of casual, native English. Make it a daily habit to learn one new phrasal verb and force yourself to use it in a sentence that day. Write it in your journal, say it out loud, or text it to a friend. Another reason Indian girls struggle to keep up with native speakers is lack of cultural context. Language does not exist in a vacuum. It is tied heavily to culture. Native speakers use a lot of sarcasm, indirectness, and pop culture references. If an American says, "Oh, great, another Monday," they do not actually think Monday is great. They are complaining. If someone says, "Tell me about it," they do not want you to actually tell them about it. They are agreeing with you because they already know. Understanding these nuances comes from consuming Western media, not just for the language, but for the culture. Pay attention to how people react in movies. Notice how they use humor to deflect awkwardness. Notice how they give compliments and how they receive them. The more culturally aligned you are, the easier it becomes to predict what someone is going to say next, which makes understanding them infinitely easier. You also need to create an English-speaking environment for yourself, even if you do not have a native speaker to talk to. Stand in front of your mirror and talk to yourself. Pick a random topic. It could be a movie you just watched, a skincare routine you want to try, or your opinion on a current news story, and just talk about it for 2 minutes straight. Do not stop. Do not correct yourself. Just keep the flow going. You will stumble, you will use the wrong tense, but you will train your brain to think on its feet. Another incredible hack is to send yourself voice notes. Open WhatsApp, record a 1-minute voice note summarizing your day in English, and listen back to it. When you listen to yourself, you will instantly notice where you pause too much, where your accent is too heavy, or where you are struggling to find the right word. It is a fantastic way to self-correct. If you do have friends who are also trying to improve their English, make a pact with them. Dedicate 30 minutes of your daily phone calls to speaking only in English. It feels awkward at first, but the shared vulnerability makes it easier. You can laugh at each other's mistakes without the fear of being judged by an outsider. If you have the budget, finding a language partner online through apps like Tandem or HelloTalk, or booking affordable sessions with a conversation tutor on platforms like Preply or italki can be a game changer. Speaking with a stranger forces you out of your comfort zone and simulates real-world pressure. It is also crucial to address the physical aspect of speaking English. Many Indian girls speak English with a very tight jaw and tense lips because they are trying so hard to pronounce every letter perfectly. Native speakers have a very relaxed mouth. Their lips barely move when they speak casually. Try to loosen your jaw when you speak English. Do not over-articulate. Let the words flow out smoothly rather than chiseling them out one by one. The physical relaxation of your facial muscles will actually translate into a more relaxed, natural-sounding rhythm in your voice. Do not underestimate the power of reading, but read the right things. Reading helps build your internal database of sentence structures, but reading a textbook will put you to sleep. Read blogs, read online articles, read young adult fiction, or read celebrity interviews. These are written in a conversational tone that mirrors how people actually speak. When you read a sentence that sounds cool or natural, write it down in a notebook specifically dedicated to cool English phrases. Review this notebook once a week and try to use those phrases in your own life. Consistency is the ultimate key here. You did not learn to speak Hindi fluently by studying it for 2 hours once a week. You learned it by being immersed in it every single day, making mistakes and trying again. You have to treat English the same way. 15 minutes of highly focused, active practice every single day will yield drastically better results than 3 hours of cramming on a Sunday. Listen to a podcast while commuting. Shadow a YouTube video while getting ready in the morning. Think in English while taking a shower. These micro habits stack up over time, and within a few months, you will look back and barely recognize the girl who used to freeze up when a native speaker said hello. Finally, remember your why. Why do you want to improve your English? Is it so you can express it job? Is it to travel the world with confidence? Is it to study abroad? Is it to consume content without relying on subtitles? Hold on to that reason. There will be days when you feel like you are not making progress. There will be days when you listen to a native speaker and still feel completely lost. That is normal. Language learning is not a straight line going up. It is a jagged line with peaks and valleys. But if you keep showing up, if you keep exposing your ears to connected speech, if you keep shadowing, if you keep thinking in English, and if you keep speaking despite the fear of making mistakes, you will get there. You already have the foundation. You already have the intelligence. You just need to tear down the wall of textbook English and step into the real, messy, beautiful world of conversational English. You have the power to become that confident Indian girl who walks into an international room, understands every joke, holds her own in a fast-paced conversation, and leaves a lasting impression. It is entirely within your reach. So start today, start now, and do not look back.